Americans of Reddit. What's the funniest thing a foreigner has said to you about America? Worked with a German guy once. Somehow the History Channel came up in convo. The Hitler Channel. I chuckled. Hitler and aliens, and sometimes both at once. A Japanese person once told me that the US is enviably wide. I think it's funny how a Japanese didn't say large, but specifically wide. A waiter in Prague asked where I was from. I told him Boston. He said, "Oh, I have a friend named Thomas Dvorak in Wyoming. Do you know him? I use his keyboard all the time." I grew up in Texas and moved to Los Angeles. Someone asked me if I knew a specific person in Austin, and the sad thing was, I did. Even though I didn't live in Austin. An international student from Malta and I were hanging out at the Smokers Lounge, aka the place in front of the dorms where people smoked. A raccoon popped out of one of the trash cans and he freaked out and said that the animals in North America were the size of monsters. This is even funnier because black bears often dumpster dive, and they are so much bigger. A Persian man that I worked with did a redneck impression. He said, "I'm an American and I like guns and Jesus," in a perfect southern accent. When I lived in Italy, one of the first questions my neighbors asked was, "How many guns do you have and where do you keep them all?" They were absolutely floored that I didn't own any guns. Unrelated, but they then tried to feed me American pizza, which apparently is a cheese pizza with hot dogs and French fries on top of it. If I'm honest, it was actually pretty good. A French guy asked me if we really put ranch on everything. I said yes, even salad, and he stared at me like I'd just admitted to living in a dumpster. Company I worked for had offices in Philly, and a bunch of big wigs from there came to Tulsa to visit and see what we did. One VP sat with me for a bit to shadow me, and while we were talking, she said, "Hey, can I ask you a weird question? Does everyone here really put ranch on their pizza? I'm in Paris with my wife, and we booked a professional photographer for an hour. He kept telling us his favorite thing about America was that there was a CVS on every corner. I said to him, the best part about Paris is that there is not a CVS on every corner. It was a funny moment. Instead, there's a pharmacy every corner with flashy animations. Are cheerleaders real? Teenager in London in 2006. Cheerleaders were in movies, but they had no idea if that was a real thing. It was a charming conversation as a teenager. I like how foreigners will believe that everyone in America is dodging gunfights and car chases on their morning commute, but then think we made up cheerleaders and yellow buses for the movies. I used to work in a kitchen at a Mexican restaurant, and two of the cooks, they were brothers, were learning English. They were in high school at the time, so they were learning a lot of slang too, and they thought it was very weird how we say "I feel you" when you agree with somebody. Every time I say it now, I can't help but think how weird it actually is. El amo. This is extra funny because "I'm sorry" in Spanish is "lo siento." Literally, I feel it. Lamau, I never knew that. Makes me wonder why they found it so weird in the first place. I am the foreigner in this case. My uncle gaslit me for years regarding the meaning of red and blue states. I was about 4 years old during the 2000 election, and we had family dinner once a week. Before dinner, we'd usually watch TV. And at the time, the big thing in the news was about George Bush's victory in the election, and they'd show all the infographics. So I asked my uncle why some places were blue and others were red, and he told me that in the blue states you were allowed to wear blue but not red, and vice versa. And he kept that shit going into my teens. As a non-American, I never really cared to look into it, and obviously as a 4-year-old I didn't understand the concept of a political party, so I just took him at face value. Fast forward to 2010, I'm now 14 and my family goes on vacation to Florida, and I'm walking around seeing people wearing both red and blue. We go to a restaurant and I ask the waiter why people are wearing both, when it's only legal to wear one or the other. My mother was mortified. This is extra funny because there are gangs in the US that do something like this, but it has nothing to do with politics. As an uncle, I can only hope to aspire to this level of trolling. Please send your uncle my compliments. My wife's Swedish cousins thought they could go explore both New York City and Los Angeles in a single weekend. Had to talk a guy who grew up in the US out of trying to drive with his non-US relatives from LA to the Grand Canyon. hike to the bottom and back up, and then drive back to LA in one day. My coworkers all wished me a happy holiday with my family before St. Patrick's Day. I am not Irish, just the only white person on the team. This is hilarious, LMFAO. When I was 13, I was in Paris with my French friend, and we went to the Paris McDonald's. Just before we take our food to the table to sit and eat, I do the mom grab and take as many napkins as I can fit into her handful. My friend says, very alarmed and aggressive, "Michael, this is a restaurant, not your house." Thanks for watching. Share your story in the comments and be sure to subscribe. Bye.